boy of 14 stands before the Iron Throne, blood dripping from his hands where the swords have already cut him. Around him the lords of Westeros watch in silence, wondering if this child king will break under the weight of the crown or rise to meet it. He has watched his father die in agony. He has hidden while his brothers were murdered. He has seen his mother collapse from grief and terror. He has lived through 6 years of his uncle's brutal tyranny, a reign so cruel that men whispered the Iron Throne itself rejected Maegor, impaling him on its own swords. Now the realm looks to this boy, this third son who was never meant to rule, and asks the impossible. Can he heal a kingdom torn apart by religious war? Can he unite lords who trust no one? Can he bring peace without dragons burning cities to ash? The Faith Militant still carries weapons in open rebellion. The treasury sits empty. The small folk suffer under crushing poverty. Every advisor doubts him. Every enemy schemes against him. And yet, in this moment, something changes in the young king's eyes. He will not rule through fear like Maegor. He will not collapse under pressure like his father. He will find another way, a better way, and over the next 55 years, he will transform this broken realm into the greatest kingdom Westeros has ever known. They will call him the Conciliator, the Wise, the Old King. But the price he pays will break your heart. Every choice will cost him something precious. Every victory will demand a sacrifice. And by the end, he will have given everything, absolutely everything, for a peace that cannot last. This is the story of Jaehaerys Targaryen, the greatest king who ever lived, and the man who paid the ultimate price for his crown. Tonight we journey into the heart of Westeros, to an age of dragons and wisdom, of peace built on sacrifice and glory forged from tragedy. This is the complete story of King Jaehaerys, the boy who lost everything and became the ruler who gave everything. From the ashes of his shattered childhood to the golden throne of his triumph, from his perfect partnership with good Queen Alysanne to the loneliness that consumed his final years. This is a tale of how one man changed the world and what it cost him to do it. So before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the stories I share here. And let me know in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is for you. I always love seeing who joins us from around the world. Now, get comfortable. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Pull up your blanket and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our story begins in the year 34 after Aegon's conquest, in a realm still finding its identity under dragon rule. The 7 kingdoms have been united for barely a generation. The memories of independence still burn hot in the hearts of great lords, and the Targaryen dynasty, though powerful beyond measure, remains fragile, contested, uncertain. Dragonstone rises from the eastern sea like a monument to Valyrian power. Black volcanic stone carved into the shapes of dragons, their mouths wide and terrible, their wings spread in eternal threat. Salt air mingles with the acrid smoke of dragons roosting in the ancient fortress. This is where the boy Jaehaerys is born, third child of King Aenys I and Queen Alyssa Velaryon. He arrives into a world of silk and Valyrian steel, of ancient bloodlines and newer ambitions. He is not meant to rule. That honor belongs to his older brother Aegon, the heir, the uncrowned prince, who will one day sit the Iron Throne. Jaehaerys is merely the spare's spare, a third son in a dynasty that seems secure, and perhaps that is what shapes him most. From his earliest days he learns to watch rather than demand, to listen rather than command, to observe the currents of power without being swept away by them. The boy is quiet but not weak, thoughtful but not timid. His hair shines silver gold in the torchlight, falling long and straight in the Targaryen tradition. His eyes burn purple like amethysts, the mark of old Valyria flowing through his veins. Even as a child there is something regal about him, something that speaks of kings and conquerors, though no one yet knows he will become both. When he is old enough, they take him to the Dragon Pit, that vast structure on the hills above King's Landing, where the great beasts are kept. There a bronze-colored dragon with copper scales regards him with ancient knowing eyes. Vermithor, they call him, the Bronze Fury. Third largest dragon in the world, smaller only than Balerion the Black Dread and Vhagar, the dragon lowers his massive head, and the boy reaches out without fear. The bond forms in that moment, rider and dragon, a connection that will last a lifetime. His sister Alysanne is born 2 years after him in 36 AC. From the moment she can toddle, she follows her brother Jaehaerys everywhere. Where he is thoughtful, she is spirited. Where he is reserved, she is bold. But they share something deeper than personality. They share understanding, a connection that goes beyond words. In the years to come, when their world falls apart and their family is torn to pieces, they will have only each other, and that will have to be enough. This is the world young Jaehaerys knows in his early years. The great red keep rising stone by stone in King's Landing, symbol of Targaryen permanence. The King's Road stretching north and south, Aegon the Conqueror's gift to his new realm. The Dragon Pit housing a dozen dragons, the ultimate argument for Targaryen supremacy. 7 kingdoms bound together by force of will and dragon fire, held in an uneasy peace by the memory of conquest. But beneath the surface, trouble brews. The faith of the 7 grows restless. For thousands of years, they have preached against the sins of incest and polygamy. Now they watch the Targaryens marry brother to sister, uncle to niece, following the customs of old Valyria, rather than the laws of the 7. The High Septon speaks in increasingly angry terms. His followers listen and grow bold. Warrior priests begin to gather, calling themselves the Faith Militant, declaring holy war against the Dragon Kings. Jaehaerys is too young to understand the danger. He knows only the warm stone of Dragonstone, his mother's gentle hands, his father's worried face, his siblings playing in the fortress gardens. He knows the sound of Vermithor's roar echoing off volcanic cliffs. He knows his sister Alysanne's laughter and his brother Aegon's proud stride. He knows he is a Targaryen, a dragon in human form, heir to the greatest dynasty the world has ever seen. He does not yet know that everything he loves is about to be taken from him, that his childhood will end in blood and terror, that he will learn the price of power before he learns to wield it, that the boy playing in Dragonstone's halls will one day sit the Iron Throne, not through inheritance but through survival. The calm before the storm, the innocence before the fall. The last days of a childhood that will be cut short by violence and loss. And in those final peaceful moments, young Jaehaerys Targaryen stands at the edge of the sea, watching dragons circle overhead, with no idea that his life is about to change forever. The nightmare begins on a cold morning in 42 AC, when King Aenys collapses on Dragonstone. Jaehaerys is only 8 years old, still a child who believes his father is invincible, but Aenys has never been strong. The Faith Militant uprising has broken something inside him. The stress, the constant threats, the knowledge that holy warriors march across his kingdom calling for his death, all of it crushes him. He takes to his bed, fever burning through him, and within days he is gone. Some whisper poison. Others say his heart simply gave out. Either way, the result is the same. The king is dead, and his children are now vulnerable. Dowager Queen Alyssa moves fast. She gathers her children in the dark of night. Jaehaerys and Alysanne clutching each other's hands, and flees Dragonstone. They sail to Driftmark, her father's seat, seeking protection with House Velarre. But safety is an illusion. Across the narrow sea, Dowager Queen Visenya, sister-wife to Aegon the Conqueror, has already acted. She flies to Pentos on her ancient dragon Visenya and retrieves her son Maegor from his exile. The man they call Maegor the Cruel returns to Westeros with fire in his eyes, and Balerion the Black Dread beneath him. Maegor does not ask for the throne. He takes it. Landing at Dragonstone, he proclaims himself king, ignoring the rightful heir, Jaehaerys' older brother, Aegon. The realm fractures instantly. Some lords bend the knee to power, others hold fast to legitimacy. And young Jaehaerys watches from hiding as his family's birthright is stolen by his own uncle. The following year brings worse horrors. Prince Aegon, the rightful king, the brother Jaehaerys admires more than anyone, decides he cannot hide while a usurper sits his father's throne. He is brave, he is determined, he is doomed. At the God's Eye, the great lake in the heart of the Riverlands, Aegon rises on his dragon Quicksilver to face Maegor on Balerion. It is no contest. Balerion is the largest dragon alive, a beast that helped conquer kingdoms. Quicksilver is young, untested. The battle lasts minutes. Balerion's jaws close on Quicksilver's neck. Dragon and rider fall from the sky, broken and burning. Jaehaerys is 9 years old when he learns his hero, brother, is dead. The grief is crushing, but there is no time to mourn. Dowager Queen Visenya summons them to King's Landing, and Queen Alyssa has no choice but to obey. They arrive at the Red Keep as prisoners in all but name, forced to attend Maegor's court, to smile and bow while their brother's killer sits the Iron Throne. Jaehaerys watches Maegor take his third wife in a ceremony of terrible pageantry. He learns to keep his face blank, his thoughts hidden, his hatred buried deep where it cannot be seen. For 2 years they live under Visenya's guard on Dragonstone. Jaehaerys, Alysanne, and their younger brother Viserys exist in a strange limbo, neither free nor openly imprisoned. Then in 44 AC, Visenya dies of natural causes. The old woman who kept them captive is gone, and Queen Alyssa seizes the moment. They flee Dragonstone in the chaos, escaping to the mainland with only what they can carry. But Maegor's reach is long. His agents are everywhere. Young Viserys, barely more than a baby, is captured. What happens next haunts Jaehaerys for the rest of his life. Maegor tortures the child for information, demanding to know where Jaehaerys and Alysanne have gone. The boy knows nothing, but Maegor does not care. When the torture yields no results, he kills Viserys anyway. A message, a warning, a demonstration of absolute cruelty. The news reaches Jaehaerys in his hiding place. His baby brother, innocent and helpless, murdered by their own uncle. The 10-year-old boy wants to scream, to cry, to rage, but he cannot. They are still hunted. Any sound, any mistake could mean death for him and Alysanne, so he swallows his grief and keeps running. His mother does not survive the year. Whether from illness, exhaustion, or a broken heart, Queen Alyssa Velaryon dies among strangers, far from home, far from the power she once held. Jaehaerys and Alysanne bury her in an unmarked grave and move on, because staying means dying. The boy is now responsible for his sister. At 10 years old, he is the last male heir of Aenys, the last legitimate prince and the most wanted fugitive in the 7 kingdoms. They spend the next 4 years moving from castle to castle, sheltered by lords brave enough or foolish enough to hide them. These are the men who still believe in legitimate succession, who remember their oaths to Adonis, who see Maegor for what he is, a tyrant, but sheltering the true heir is dangerous. Maegor's punishments are swift and terrible. Families who aid Jaehaerys risk everything. During these years, Jaehaerys grows up fast. He trains with whatever weapons he can find. He learns to read people, to sense danger, to know when to speak and when to stay silent. He studies history and law with any maester willing to teach him. He visits Vermithor whenever possible, strengthening the bond with his dragon, learning to fly in secret under cover of darkness. The Bronze Fury grows larger each year, and so does Jaehaerys' skill as a rider. Alysanne becomes his anchor. Where he is cautious, she is bold. Where he calculates, she feels, but they trust each other completely. She is the only family he has left, the only person in the world who understands what they have lost and what they must become. Their bond deepens into something unbreakable, brother and sister, best friends, eventually something more. From hiding, Jaehaerys watches Maegor's reign unfold. He sees the executions, the arbitrary cruelty, the way fear permeates every corner of the realm. Lords are killed on suspicion. Small folk suffer under harsh taxes. The Faith Militant, ironically, becomes almost sympathetic in comparison to the tyrant they oppose. Maegor finishes construction of the Red Keep and celebrates by killing the workers so they cannot reveal its secrets. He takes multiple wives in defiance of every law and custom. He grows paranoid, seeing enemies everywhere, trusting no one. And Jaehaerys learns. He learns that cruelty does not create loyalty. That fear is a poor foundation for a kingdom. That power without wisdom is just destruction, with a crown. He watches his uncle become more isolated, more hated, more vulnerable, and he begins to understand something crucial about kingship. It is not about being feared, it is about being worthy. These lessons come at terrible cost. By the time Jaehaerys reaches his early teens, he has lost his father, both his brothers, his mother, his childhood, his innocence. He has seen the best and worst of human nature. He has learned patience from necessity, mercy from witnessing cruelty, and wisdom from watching folly destroy itself. He does not yet know that his time is coming, that Maegor's days are numbered, that the realm, exhausted by tyranny, is ready for something different, something better. But he is preparing, consciously or not, for the role he never expected to fill. The frightened boy hiding in shadows is becoming the man who will heal a kingdom. The orphan is becoming a king. And in 48 AC, everything changes. Maegor is found dead on the Iron Throne, his body impaled on the very swords he claimed as his seat. No one knows how it happened. Murder? Suicide? Divine judgment? The throne itself rejecting an unworthy king. The truth dies with Maegor. But across the 7 kingdoms, lords look at each other and ask the same question: who rules now? The realm holds its breath, waiting for the next king to emerge. And in a castle in the Stormlands, a 14-year-old boy named Jaehaerys Targaryen mounts his bronze dragon and prepares to claim his birthright. Not with fire and blood, though he has both at his command, but with something Maegor never possessed and could never understand, with justice, with mercy, with wisdom born from suffering. The boy who lost everything is about to show the world what a true king looks like. The news of Maegor's death spreads through the realm like wildfire in dry grass. In King's Landing, the Red Keep falls into chaos. Maegor's black brides, his multiple wives, suddenly find themselves powerless. His supporters scramble to distance themselves from his crimes, and the lords who suffered under his tyranny see their chance. But who should take the throne? The succession is anything but clear. Lord Rhaegar Baratheon, the powerful Lord of Storm's End, makes the first decisive move. He has sheltered Jaehaerys and Alysanne for months, risking Maegor's wrath, betting on a future where legitimacy matters again. Now his gamble pays off. He gathers his banners and marches to Shipbreaker Bay, where the young prince waits. And there, before hundreds of knights and lords of the Stormlands, Rhaegar Baratheon bends his knee and proclaims Jaehaerys Targaryen the true and rightful king of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men. Jaehaerys is 14 years old. He has not seen King's Landing in years. He has lived as a fugitive, hunted and homeless, watching his family die one by one. And now these powerful men kneel before him, offering him the most dangerous seat in the world. He could refuse. He could take a Lisan and fly away on Vermithor, disappear to Essos, live a quiet life far from the throne that devoured his family. For a moment, standing on that windswept beach, he considers it. But then he thinks of his father, dying helpless on Dragonstone. His brother Aegon, falling burning from the sky. Little Viserys tortured and killed for no reason but spite. His mother dying in exile. 6 years of Maegor's cruelty. 6 years of the realm bleeding. And he knows he cannot walk away. If he does not take the throne, someone else will. Someone who might be another Maegor. Or worse, someone weak like his father. The realm needs a king who understands both mercy and strength. Someone who has seen the cost of tyranny and the price of weakness. Someone willing to try a different path. Jaehaerys steps forward and draws Dark Sister, the Valyrian steel sword that belonged to Visenya, now carried by those who oppose Maegor's memory. He raises it high and speaks his vow. He will end the tyranny. He will restore justice. He will heal the realm's wounds. He will be the king his father could not be, and the king his uncle should never have been. The assembled lords roar their approval. The banners of House Baratheon and a dozen other houses rise in the salt wind, and the boy who was never meant to rule becomes King Jaehaerys I. But claiming the throne and sitting it are different things. King's Landing still holds Maegor's supporters, his guards, his residual power. A 14-year-old king, backed by the Stormlands, is not yet secure. Then comes the moment that changes everything. In the Red Keep, Jaehaerys' eldest sister Rhaena makes her choice. She has been Maegor's prisoner and unwilling bride, forced to marry the man who killed her first husband. But she has never stopped being a Targaryen. On the night she hears of Jaehaerys' proclamation, she steals into Maegor's chambers and takes Blackfire, the sword of Aegon the Conqueror, the symbol of Targaryen kingship. She also takes her daughter Arya, whom Maegor had named his heir in desperation for any successor. And in the dark before dawn, Rhaena climbs onto her dragon Dreamfire and flies from King's Landing to join her brother. When she lands at Storm's End, she kneels before Jaehaerys and places Blackfire at his feet, the Conqueror's sword, the ultimate symbol. In that moment, any question of legitimacy evaporates. The sword has chosen its king. With 3 dragons and the great houses rallying to his cause, Jaehaerys marches on King's Landing, or rather, he flies. Vermithor carries him north, bronze scales gleaming in the sun. Silverwing bears Alysanne beside him. Dreamfire follows with Rhaena. 3 dragons in formation, 3 riders of royal blood, heading home to reclaim what was stolen. As they approach the capital, lords along the way declare for Jaehaerys, the Lannisters of Casterly Rock, the Tyrells of Highgarden, the Arryns of the Vale, the Valyrians of Driftmark. One by one the great houses bend the knee to the boy king. Maegor's remaining supporters see which way the wind blows and abandon ship. There is no battle, no siege. The gates of King's Landing open as Jaehaerys approaches. Small folk line the streets, not cheering exactly, but watching with cautious hope. They have learned not to trust too quickly. Kings promise much and deliver little, but this boy riding a bronze dragon, this prince who suffered as they suffered, perhaps he will be different. Jaehaerys rides through the city gates and up the winding streets to the Red Keep. Every step of the journey, he sees the damage Maegor inflicted. Buildings burned during the Faith Militant fighting. Heads still decorating spikes as warnings. An entire city traumatized and exhausted. He files it all away, remembering, understanding the work ahead. The throne room looms before him, vast and intimidating. The Iron Throne rises in shadows at the far end. 1,000 swords melted together by dragon fire, twisted into a seat that cuts anyone who sits it carelessly. Maegor's body has been removed, but the bloodstains remain. Jaehaerys approaches slowly, Alysanne and Rhaena flanking him, Lord Roger and the assembled lords watching. This is the moment. The boy becomes the king. The fugitive becomes the ruler. The last heir becomes the first of a new era. He climbs the steps carefully. The throne looms above him, larger than any 14-year-old should have to face. He thinks of his grandfather Aegon, who forged this throne from the swords of his enemies. He thinks of his father Aegon, who sat here and broke under the pressure. He thinks of Maegor, who ruled from this seat through fear and died impaled upon it. And he knows he must be different from all of them. Stronger than his father, wiser than his grandfather, and infinitely more merciful than his uncle. Jaehaerys sits. The swords press against him immediately, cold metal finding gaps in his clothing. He feels them prick his back, his legs, his arms. The throne draws blood from him, as it does from every king. He does not flinch. The pain is a reminder. A king must bleed for his people. A king must feel the sharp edges of justice. A king must never forget that power comes with a price. From the Iron Throne he looks out at the assembled lords, men 3 times his age, warriors who have fought battles, politicians who have played the Game of Thrones for decades. And he speaks his first words as king. Not threats, not promises he cannot keep, but a simple truth. The realm has bled enough. The time for cruelty has ended. He offers peace to all who will accept it. He offers justice to all who seek it. He offers a future where strength comes from wisdom, not fear. And then he makes his first decision as king, the one that defines everything that follows. He pardons Maegor's supporters, all of them. The lords who bent the knee to the tyrant, the knights who carried out his orders, the officials who enforced his cruel laws. He strips them of nothing. He executes no one. He demands only that they swear loyalty to him and never speak of the past again. The throne room erupts in shock. This is not how kings act. Kings punish traitors. Kings make examples. Kings rule through fear. But Jaehaerys is not that kind of king. He has seen where that path leads. He knows that vengeance breeds only more vengeance, that cruelty creates only hatred. If he begins his reign with executions, he teaches his people that power changes hands through blood. Better to show them another way. Better to prove that mercy is not weakness, that forgiveness is not foolishness. The realm needs healing, not more wounds. The lords who expected punishment fall to their knees, overwhelmed by unexpected grace. The lords who supported him from the start nod in approval, seeing wisdom beyond the boy's years. And across the 7 kingdoms, word spreads that a new kind of king sits the Iron Throne. One who chooses mercy over vengeance, who offers peace instead of demanding submission, who bleeds from the throne but does not make others bleed. That night, alone in the royal chambers, Jaehaerys allows himself to feel the weight of what he has taken on. He is 14 years old, and he rules millions. He has dragons, armies, unlimited power, and all he wants is to never use them. All he wants is for the killing to stop, for the realm to heal, for people to live without fear. He thinks of his mother, his brothers, his father. They did not die so he could become another tyrant. They died so someone better could rule. And he vows, alone in the darkness, that he will be worthy of their sacrifice, that their deaths will mean something. Alysanne finds him there, sitting by the window, looking out over King's Landing. She sits beside him without speaking, her hand finding his. They do not need words. They have been through too much together, survived too much, lost too much, and now they face the future together. A boy king and his sister, 2 orphans with dragons, trying to fix a broken world. The Iron Throne has claimed another king, but this one will be different. This one will show the realm what greatness truly means, not conquest, not cruelty, but wisdom, mercy, and the courage to choose peace even when war would be easier. The reign of Jaehaerys I has begun, and the realm will never be the same. The first crisis arrives before Jaehaerys has even settled into his new role. The Faith Militant, the warrior orders who sparked the rebellions that killed his father, still march across the realm with weapons drawn. Thousands of poor fellows and warriors' sons answer to the High Septon, not the Iron Throne. They preach against Targaryen incest and dragon rule. They have castles, they have followers, and they have no intention of submitting to a boy king who represents everything they claim to oppose. Lord Roger Baratheon, the Hand of the King, has a simple solution: burn them. Take the dragons, fly to their strongholds, and show them what happens to those who defy the crown. It is what Aegon the Conqueror would have done. It is what Maegor tried to do before his brutality created more enemies than it destroyed. Roger argues that mercy has its place, but not with armed fanatics who reject the king's authority. Jaehaerys listens to his hand, and then he does the opposite. He will not burn the Faith Militant. He will talk to them. Roger nearly explodes at the suggestion. Talk to religious fanatics who want the Targaryens destroyed. It is madness. It is suicide. It will make the young king look weak before he has even established his authority. But Jaehaerys is unmoved. He has seen what fire and blood accomplish. His uncle tried that approach and died, hated and alone. There must be another way. He sends envoys to the High Septon, offering negotiations, not surrender, not submission, but dialogue. He makes it clear that he is willing to listen to the faith's grievances, to find common ground, to seek a solution that allows both crown and faith to coexist. The initial response is skepticism bordering on contempt. Why would the faith negotiate with a boy who represents everything they oppose? But Jaehaerys is patient. He keeps sending messages, keeps offering dialogue, keeps making it clear that he wants peace, not victory. Months pass. The Faith Militant continues its activities, testing the new king, waiting to see if he will lose patience and resort to violence. Some of his own lords grow restless, questioning whether their boy king has the steel necessary to rule. But Jaehaerys holds firm, and slowly, something shifts. The High Septon agrees to a meeting. Not a surrender, not a negotiation, just a conversation, face to face, king and priest, to see if peace is possible. The meeting takes place in neutral territory, with guards from both sides watching each other warily. Jaehaerys arrives on Vernmithor, a reminder that he has power even if he chooses not to use it. The High Septon comes surrounded by warrior priests, men who have killed in the name of their faith. And in a tent between armies, the boy king and the old priest sit down to talk. What transpires in that tent changes the realm. Jaehaerys does not threaten. He does not demand. He listens. He hears the faith's concerns about Targaryen customs, their fear that dragon lords will corrupt the morals of the kingdom. And then he offers something unexpected: a partnership. The crown will become the official protector of the faith. The king will defend the Seven and their followers. In return, the faith will disband its military orders and recognize the legitimacy of the Targaryen dynasty. There is more, of course. Complex negotiations about church property, about the rights of the faith to conduct its own affairs, about the autonomy of the High Septon. But the core bargain is simple: peace for recognition, security for legitimacy, a partnership instead of a war. The High Septon returns to his followers and presents the offer. It is not everything they wanted. The Targaryens will still practice incest, dragons will still rule, but the killing will stop. The faith will regain its honored place in society. And the king who offers this is not Maegor, but a boy who clearly wants to find a better way. The Faith Militant disbands, not overnight, and not without grumbling, but it happens. Warriors lay down their swords, priests return to their septs. The religious war that tore the realm apart for years simply ends, not with dragon fire, but with words and compromise. And Jaehaerys, barely 16 years old, earns his first title, the Conciliator, the king who makes peace instead of war, the ruler who achieves through wisdom what force could never accomplish. But his early reign is not defined only by political victories. In the midst of these negotiations, Jaehaerys faces a deeply personal crisis. Lord Rhaegar, his hand and the man who made him king, wants him to marry, a political marriage. Of course, an alliance with one of the great houses, perhaps a Lannister daughter, bringing the wealth of Casterly Rock into the royal family, or a Tyrell, cementing the loyalty of the Reach. Rhaegar has plans, strategies, carefully calculated moves on the board of power. Jaehaerys has other ideas. He wants to marry Alysanne, his sister, his best friend, the only person in the world who truly understands him, the one who has been beside him through every nightmare, every loss, every impossible choice. She is not a political asset. She brings no great house into alliance, but she is his equal, his partner, the other half of his soul, and he loves her. Rhaegar is furious when he discovers the young king's intentions. It is foolish, emotional, a waste of a valuable political tool. The realm needs alliances, not sentiment. And yes, Targaryen sibling marriage is traditional, but that does not make it wise in this moment when the dynasty needs to build bridges to the great houses. Jaehaerys listens to all of this, nods politely, and then does exactly what he planned. He flies to Dragonstone with Alysanne, and there in the ancient seat of House Targaryen, they marry in secret. The ceremony is small, intimate, just the two of them and a Septon who understands the weight of the moment. They exchange vows in the Valyrian tradition, binding themselves together not just as husband and wife, but as partners in the truest sense. And then they consummate the marriage, making it impossible to annul, presenting the realm with an accomplished fact. When they return to King's Landing, it is done. Rhaegar confronts the young king in a rage. This is a disaster, a political catastrophe. The great houses will feel slighted. Potential alliances have been thrown away for adolescent infatuation. Jaehaerys waits for the storm to pass, and then he speaks with quiet authority. He is the king, she is his queen. This is not negotiable, not reversible, not subject to anyone's approval. The discussion is over. And in that moment, Lord Rhaegar realizes that the boy he helped crown is truly a king now. Not a puppet, not a figurehead, but a sovereign who will make his own choices and live with the consequences. The realm's reaction surprises everyone, rather than outrage. There is approval. The small folk hear about the young king who chose love over politics, and they adore him for it. Songs begin circulating about the boy king and his chosen queen, romantic ballads that sweep through taverns and markets. Even the lords, while perhaps disappointed at the lost alliance opportunity, have to admit there is something compelling about a king who follows his heart. And the Faith, recently reconciled with the crown, accepts the marriage with minimal protest. The Targaryens are Targaryens. They follow different rules. Most importantly, the marriage works. Alysanne is not a decorative queen who sits quietly in the background. She is fierce, intelligent, compassionate. She sits on the small council, offering advice that Jaehaerys genuinely considers. She flies across the realm on Silverwing, holding her own audiences with the small folk, listening to their problems, bringing their concerns back to the king. Where Jaehaerys is diplomatic and careful, Alysanne is direct and passionate. Together they balance each other. The conciliator and the good queen, two halves of one whole. They begin a tradition of royal progresses, flying to different parts of the realm to show themselves to their people. Not just visiting lords in their castles, though they do that too, but landing in villages, walking through markets, talking to farmers and craftsmen and mothers. No king has ever done this before. Rulers stay in their capitals, remote and unreachable. But Jaehaerys and Alysanne want their people to see them, to know them, to understand that the throne cares about more than lords and politics. In every place they visit, they listen. What do the people need? Roads are crumbling. Bridges have collapsed. Bandits prey on travelers. Justice is often absent, with local lords abusing their power. Water is scarce in some villages. Orphans have nowhere to go. Widows are exploited. The list of problems is endless, and Jaehaerys starts addressing them, one by one. He cannot fix everything immediately, but he can show that the crown is listening, that their suffering matters. The realm begins to change. Slowly, gradually, but undeniably, the terror of Maegor's reign fades into memory. The chaos of the Faith Militant uprising recedes. In its place, something new emerges. Hope, the sense that maybe, just maybe, this young king and his queen actually care about making things better. That the Iron Throne can be more than just a symbol of power, that it can be a force for justice, for mercy, for good. And in the royal chambers, when the work is done and the council meetings are over, Jaehaerys and Alysanne find moments of peace. They are young, barely into their 20s, carrying responsibilities that would crush most adults. But they have each other, and in 50 AC their first child is born. They name him Aegon, after the conqueror, after Jaehaerys' murdered brother. A new beginning, a new hope. The baby lives only 3 days. Some failure of the body, some weakness that even royal blood cannot overcome. He dies in his sleep, and Jaehaerys and Alysanne are left holding their dead son, their first taste of the grief that will shadow their entire reign. But they do not break. They mourn, they grieve, and then they continue. Because the realm needs them. Because stopping means letting the darkness win. Because they are king and queen. And duty does not pause for personal sorrow. They will try again. They will keep trying. And eventually, they will build the family, the dynasty, the golden age they dream of. But first they must pay the price that every great ruler pays. They must learn that power cannot protect you from everything. That even dragons cannot hold back death. That being king means accepting losses that would destroy ordinary people, and continuing anyway. The conciliator and the good queen, already shaped by tragedy, already stronger for it, already becoming the legends they will one day be remembered as. But the cost, the terrible cost of greatness, has only just begun. The turning point comes in 54 AC, when Lord Rhaegar Baratheon finally overreaches. For years the hand of the king has chafed under Jaehaerys' independence. He helped make this king, supported him when he had nothing, risked everything to put him on the throne. And now the boy barely listens to him. The marriage to Alysanne was the first insult, but there are others. Decisions made without consultation. Policies implemented over his objections, a king who increasingly governs as he sees fit, not as his hand advises. Rhaegar begins to scheme, nothing overtly treasonous but subtle manipulations designed to regain control. He attempts to arrange marriages for other members of the royal family without the king's approval. He makes promises to lords that he has no authority to make, and then comes his greatest mistake. His brother Oryne attempts to kidnap Princess Rhaella, Jaehaerys' younger sister, from the mother house where she lives as a novice. The plan is to force a marriage, creating a Baratheon connection to the royal family that cannot be undone. It is clumsy, desperate, and doomed from the start. When the plot is discovered, the small council demands Rhaegar's head. Treason is treason, regardless of past service. Several lords argue that Rhaegar must be made an example, shown that no one, not even the man who made the king, is above justice. Jaehaerys listens to all of this, sitting on the Iron Throne, looking older than his 20 years, and then he makes a choice that defines his entire approach to governance. He summons Rhaegar to the throne room. The great lord enters expecting arrest, possibly execution. Instead, Jaehaerys speaks of the past, how Rhaegar sheltered him and Alysanne during the darkest days, how he risked everything to declare for a fugitive prince, how he stood on that beach at Shipbreaker Bay and made a 14-year-old boy into a king. These acts of courage and loyalty cannot be forgotten. They matter, they count for something. But Jaehaerys continues, those same acts do not grant unlimited license. Rogar has overstepped. He has schemed when he should have counseled. He has grasped for power when he should have offered wisdom. And so he is dismissed as Hand of the King, not executed, not imprisoned, simply removed from office and sent home to Storm's End. His brother Orin will be exiled for 10 years as punishment for the kidnapping attempt. But Rogar himself is pardoned, on one condition: he must never speak against the king or queen again, and he must be a faithful husband to his wife Queen Dowager Alyssa. The throne room is silent. As Jaehaerys finishes speaking, Rogar stands there, humiliated but alive, stripped of power but granted mercy, and every lord present understands the message. The king rewards loyalty and punishes betrayal, but he does not rule through terror. There is justice here, proportion, wisdom. This is not Maegor executing people for imagined slights. This is something new, something better. With Rogar dismissed, Jaehaerys needs a new hand. The obvious choice would be another great lord, someone from a powerful family who brings military strength and political connections. Instead, Jaehaerys appoints Septon Barth, a commoner, a man of the faith, someone with no army, no castle, no family name worth mentioning. The small council is stunned. Lords across the realm are outraged, appointing a commoner as Hand of the King, giving the second most powerful position in the realm to someone with no noble blood. It is unprecedented, radical, possibly dangerous. Jaehaerys does not care. He has watched Septon Barth for years. The man is brilliant, educated, humble, and wise. He reads constantly, writes treatises on everything from governance to dragons, thinks deeply about how to make the realm better, and he has no personal ambitions beyond serving well. He will not scheme for power, because he never wanted power in the first place. He will give honest advice because he has nothing to gain from lying. He is perfect. Septon Barth accepts the position with characteristic humility and immediately proves Jaehaerys right. Together, King and Hand form one of the greatest partnerships in Westerosi history, where Jaehaerys is the visionary, Barth is the implementer. Where the king sees what should be done, the Hand figures out how to do it. They meet daily, often for hours, discussing problems, debating solutions, refining ideas until they work. Alysanne joins them frequently, completing a triumvirate of wisdom that guides the realm through its golden age. The first great project is the codification of law. For generations, justice in Westeros has been a patchwork of local customs, regional traditions, and arbitrary lordly decisions. The North follows different rules than the Reach. The Stormlands have customs unknown in the Vale. And everywhere, the definition of justice depends largely on which lord holds power. This creates chaos, unfairness, and endless disputes. Jaehaerys and Barth spend years writing a unified legal code. They study the laws of every kingdom, the traditions of every region, the wisdom of maesters and septons. They consult with lords and smallfolk alike, asking what justice should look like, what rights people should have, what protections the law should provide. And slowly, painstakingly, they create the King's Law, a set of principles and rules that apply equally across all 7 kingdoms. The King's Law establishes the right to a fair trial. It sets standards for evidence and testimony. It creates an appeals process so that local injustice can be challenged. It protects the weak from the strong, the poor from the rich, at least in theory. And most importantly, it declares that the law applies to everyone, lords and peasants, rich and poor, powerful and powerless. Justice is not a privilege of birth. It is a right of all subjects. The implementation takes years. Old customs die hard. Lords resist limitations on their authority. But Jaehaerys is patient and persistent. He holds court regularly, hearing appeals, overturning unjust decisions, making it clear that the king's law is not merely words on parchment. It is real, it is enforced, and it matters. Slowly the realm transforms. Justice becomes more than a lord's whim. It becomes an expectation, a standard, something people can actually rely on. Alysanne champions her own reforms, particularly concerning women. The widow's law is her masterpiece. For generations, when a man died, his widow often found herself at the mercy of his relatives. Property was seized, children were taken away, remarriage was forced or forbidden depending on what benefited the family. Widows had virtually no rights, no protections, no recourse. Alysanne is horrified when she hears the stories, and she demands change. The widow's law guarantees that widows inherit a portion of their husband's property. It grants them custody of their children unless they are proven unfit. It allows them to choose whether to remarry rather than being forced into unwanted unions. It is revolutionary for a deeply patriarchal society, and many lords hate it. But Alysanne is relentless. She travels the realm, speaking to women, hearing their stories, building support, and Jaehaerys, who trusts his wife's judgment completely, backs her fully. The law passes. Another Alysanne initiative is the abolition of the lord's right, an ancient custom that allowed lords to bed newlywed peasant women on their wedding night. It is barbaric, cruel, a symbol of everything wrong with unchecked power. When Alysanne learns it still exists in some parts of the realm, she is furious. She brings it to Jaehaerys, and together they draft legislation ending the practice forever. Again lords object. Again the king and queen prevail. The realm becomes incrementally a more just place. Septon Barth's greatest diplomatic achievement comes in the negotiations over the doctrine of exceptionalism. The peace with the faith is holding, but the fundamental tension remains. The Seven teach that incest is a sin, yet the Targaryens marry brother to sister as a matter of course. How can this contradiction be resolved? Barth proposes a theological solution. The Targaryens are not ordinary men. They are descended from Valyria, bonded to dragons, touched by something beyond normal humanity. They are exceptions to the rules that govern lesser mortals, not because they are above the law, but because they are fundamentally different. It is a clever argument, and Barth presents it skillfully to the faith leadership. He negotiates for months, offering concessions here, compromises there, slowly building consensus, and eventually the High Septon accepts the doctrine. It is proclaimed throughout the realm. Targaryens are exempt from the laws against incest. Their marriages to siblings are legal and legitimate in the eyes of both crown and faith. The theological crisis that nearly destroyed the dynasty is resolved through words and wisdom. While law and theology occupy much of the council's time, practical improvements transform daily life. The King's Road, begun by Aegon the Conqueror, is completed and extended under Jaehaerys. New branches connect east and west. The surface is improved, making travel faster and safer. Way stations are built at regular intervals, providing shelter and supplies for travelers. Patrols keep bandits at bay. What once took weeks now takes days. Trade flourishes as merchants can move goods safely and quickly. Bridges are constructed over major rivers, replacing dangerous fords and unreliable ferries. The Trident, which flows through the heart of the Riverlands, gets multiple bridges at strategic points. The Mander in the Reach is bridged near Highgarden. These are not small projects. They require engineers, laborers, years of work, and substantial investment, but Jaehaerys sees infrastructure as essential. A connected realm is a unified realm, and so the bridges rise. Alysanne's Wells program might seem small compared to roads and bridges, but its impact is profound. She travels the realm and sees that many villages lack clean water. People draw from rivers that might be contaminated. or they walk miles to the nearest spring. Disease spreads, children die, and it is all preventable. Alysanne orders wells dug in every village that needs one. The program costs relatively little but saves countless lives. The small folk begin calling them the Good Queen's Wells, and her popularity soars. The economic transformation is equally dramatic. Rigo Dries, the Pentoshi merchant appointed as master of coin, revolutionizes the realm's finances. He reforms the tax system, making it more efficient and less corrupt. He negotiates with the Iron Bank of Bravos, and through a brilliant diplomatic maneuver orchestrated by Septon Barth, he gets a significant portion of the crown's debt forgiven. The treasury, empty when Jaehaerys took the throne, begins to fill. For the first time in decades, the crown has money not just for immediate needs, but for long-term investment. This wealth funds everything else. The roads, the bridges, the wells, the expanded dragon pit, the beautification of King's Landing. Jaehaerys proves that good governance is not about hoarding power or extracting maximum taxation. It is about creating conditions where everyone prospers, when trade flows freely, when people are safe, when justice is reliable, the economy grows, and a growing economy generates more revenue than any amount of oppressive taxation could produce. The small council itself is restructured. Positions are filled based on competence rather than noble birth. The Grand Maester's role is formalized and expanded. A new position, Master of Laws, is created to oversee the implementation of the King's law. The Master of Ships is reformed to actually build and maintain a navy. Council meetings are held regularly. Minutes are recorded. Decisions are documented. Government becomes systematic rather than arbitrary. It becomes an institution that can function even when individual leaders change. Through all of this, the royal family grows. After the heartbreak of losing infant Aegon, Jaehaerys and Alysanne have more children. Princess Daenerys is born in 53 AC, a beautiful girl who brings joy back into their lives. Prince Aemon follows in 55 AC, strong and healthy, the heir the dynasty needs. Prince Balon arrives in 57 AC, securing the succession even further. Princess Alyssa in 60 AC. More children will come, eventually 13 in total, creating a large and vibrant royal family. The dragon pit expands to house the growing number of dragons. Anemon will claim Caraxes. Baelon will ride Vega, the ancient dragon that once carried Visenya. Alyssa will bond with Meleys. The image of Targaryen power is not just one king on one dragon, but an entire family of dragon riders. A dynasty backed by a dozen of the greatest weapons in the world, yet they rarely need to use them. The dragons are a deterrent, a reminder of what could happen if anyone challenges the peace. But the peace itself is maintained through justice, prosperity, and genuine care for the realm. By the time Princess Daenerys turns 6 in 60 AC, Westeros is transformed. The chaos and violence that marked the reigns of Aenys and Maegor feel like ancient history. The Faith Militant is a distant memory. The realm is connected by roads and bridges. The law applies equally to all. The economy thrives. The small folk who once feared their king now love their monarchs. Jaehaerys the Conciliator and Alysanne the Good Queen have accomplished something extraordinary. They have shown that kingship can be about service rather than domination, that wisdom matters more than force, that a realm governed justly will prosper beyond what tyranny could ever achieve. But even in this golden age, shadows linger. Little Daenerys, the princess who brought such joy after the loss of infant Aegon, falls ill. The shivers, a disease that no maester can cure, sweeps through King's Landing. And the king and queen, who have built an empire and reformed a realm, discover that all their power cannot protect them from everything. Some battles cannot be won with wisdom or dragons. Some losses are inevitable. No matter how great you become, the price of ruling, the cost of caring, is learning that you cannot save everyone. not even your own children. The death of Princess Daenerys in 60 AC shatters the illusion of invincibility that has surrounded the Golden Age. She is only 6 years old, bright and beloved, full of life one day and gone the next. The shivers takes her quickly, fever burning through her small body, while maesters stand helpless and parents pray uselessly. Jaehaerys and Alysanne hold vigil by her bedside for 3 days, watching their daughter slip away, unable to do anything but witness her suffering. When she dies, they bury her with all the ceremony due a princess, but the pageantry cannot fill the emptiness. This is different from losing infant Aegon. That was a tragedy, yes, but the baby lived only days. They barely knew him. Daenerys was 6 years old. She had a personality, a laugh, favorite games, dreams about the future. She was real to them in a way their first child never had time to be, and now she is gone, and they must somehow continue. The realm mourns with them, bells toll across King's Landing, lords send condolences, small folk light candles in sept windows. But the grief of a kingdom is abstract, distant. The grief of parents is immediate and crushing. Alysanne withdraws for weeks, barely eating, seeing no one but her closest ladies. Jaehaerys throws himself into work, holding court, meeting with councils, signing decrees, anything to avoid sitting still with his pain. They process their loss differently, and the difference creates the first real strain in their marriage. Eventually, they emerge from mourning. They have other children who need them. Aemon is 5, Baedalon 3. They cannot fall apart, cannot give in to despair, so they create a tradition instead. Future daughters of House Targaryen will be named Daenerys, ensuring that their lost princess is never forgotten. It is a small comfort, a way to make meaning from meaninglessness, and they move forward, because kings and queens do not have the luxury of stopping. The realm continues to prosper through the 60s AC. The reforms implemented earlier begin showing their full effects. The roads are complete, connecting every major city and most minor ones. Travel that once took weeks now takes days. Merchants move freely, carrying goods from dawn to the wall. The economic impact is enormous. Markets expand. New businesses emerge. Prosperity becomes the norm rather than the exception. King's Landing itself transforms under Jaehaerys' guidance. The city that grew haphazardly under Aegon and suffered under Maegor becomes beautiful and functional. Streets are widened and paved. A proper sewage system is installed, dramatically improving public health. Markets are organized and regulated. The Red Keep is completed and beautified with gardens and artworks. The city becomes a place people want to visit, not just a necessary evil of governance. The cultural renaissance matches the economic boom, with peace secure and prosperity widespread. People have time and resources for pursuits beyond survival. Tournaments become regular events, showcasing knightly prowess in controlled settings rather than actual warfare. Artists flourish, creating paintings and sculptures that decorate castles and septs. Musicians compose songs celebrating the age they live in. Masters write treatises on law, science, history, expanding human knowledge. The citadel at Oldtown sees an explosion of scholarly activity. In 62 AC, Jaehaerys formalizes what has been obvious for years. He names Prince Aemon as Prince of Dragonstone and official heir to the Iron Throne. The ceremony is grand, befitting the occasion. 7-year-old Aemon kneels before his father and receives the title that designates him as the future king. It is a joyful moment, celebrating succession and continuity. The dynasty is secure. The future is bright. Aemon takes his new role seriously. Even as a child, he is thoughtful and disciplined. He trains with sword and lance, studies history and law, learns languages and diplomacy. His younger brother Balon adores him, following him everywhere, trying to match his accomplishments. The two princes become inseparable, training together in the yard, flying their dragons in tandem, presenting a picture of brotherly affection and future stability. In 68 AC, Aemon is betrothed to Lady Jocelyn Baratheon. She is the daughter of the late Rhaegar Baratheon, meaning this match heals old wounds while creating new alliances. More importantly, Aemon and Jocelyn genuinely like each other. At the feast announcing their betrothal, Queen Alysanne seats them together, and they spend the entire evening talking and laughing. It is a good sign. Their wedding 2 years later in 70 AC is magnificent, rivaling the Golden Wedding in splendor and extravagance. Berdalan follows his brother's example in 75 AC by marrying his sister Alyssa. This is a more traditional Targaryen match, sibling to sibling, keeping the bloodline pure. Alyssa is a spirited young woman, a dragon rider, who takes no nonsense from anyone. She and Berdalan are well matched, both warriors, both passionate, both devoted to family. Their wedding is smaller than Aemon's but no less joyful, and when their first son Viserys is born in 77 AC, followed by Daemon in 81 AC, the dynasty's future seems absolutely secure. Jaehaerys becomes a grandfather in 74 AC, when Aemon and Jocelyn have a daughter, Rhaenys. The old king, now 40 years old, holds his granddaughter and feels the weight of time. He is no longer the young man who took the throne. He is middle-aged, graying, showing his years, but he has built something lasting. His children are thriving. His grandchildren are being born. The realm is at peace. This is what success looks like. Not all the children thrive equally. Princess Maegor, born in 61 AC, shows early devotion to the faith. She is gentle, pious, drawn to prayer and contemplation. In 73 AC, when she is only 12, she eagerly joins the faith as a novice. Alysanne calls it a blessing, proof that the gods favor their family. Maegor will eventually become a scepter, known for her wisdom and her ability to mediate disputes. She is perhaps the kindest of all Jaehaerys' children. Prince Vagon, born a year after Maegor, is her opposite. Cold, intellectual, utterly uninterested in the courtly life expected of a prince. He refuses to train with weapons despite Berdalan's patient attempts to teach him. He shows no interest in women, rejecting every match his parents propose. He simply wants to study, to read, to think. In 78 AC, everyone is relieved when Vagon goes to the Citadel to become a maester. He will eventually forge his chain and become an archmaester, contributing to knowledge if not to the family. But the darker threads are there too, woven into the tapestry of golden prosperity. Infant Gaemon is born and dies in 73 AC, another cradle death that brings grief even amidst plenty. Little Valerian follows in 77 AC, living not quite a year before succumbing to some unnamed illness. Each loss cuts deeply, reminding Jaehaerys and Alysanne that their power has limits. They rule a kingdom, but they cannot command death to spare their children. The marriage between king and queen begins showing strain, not in public, never in public, but privately they argue more frequently. Alysanne wants their daughters to have more choice in whom they marry, more freedom to determine their own futures. Jaehaerys prioritizes political alliances and dynastic needs. She accuses him of treating their children as chess pieces. He counters that they are royalty, that duty must come before personal preference. Neither is entirely wrong. Neither can fully convince the other. The Fourth Dornish War in 83 AC provides a brief, glorious distraction. Prince Morian Martell of Dorne, emboldened by years of independence, attempts an invasion of the Stormlands. His fleet carries thousands of soldiers, threatening to open a new front of warfare. It could be catastrophic, dragging the realm into the kind of prolonged conflict that Jaehaerys has spent his reign avoiding. Instead, it becomes a demonstration of Targaryen supremacy at its finest. Jaehaerys, now 49 years old, mounts Vermithor. Daemon rides Caryxes. Balon climbs onto Vagar. 3 generations, 3 dragons, 3 riders united in purpose. They fly south to meet the Dornish fleet before it can make landfall. And in a single day, in a single coordinated attack, they destroy it completely. Dragon fire rains from the sky. Ships burn and sink. The invasion ends before it begins. Not one Westerosi soldier dies in the conflict. The victory is total, and the celebration is massive. King's Landing erupts in joy. The 3 dragon riders return to a hero's welcome, riding through streets lined with cheering crowds. It is the peak of Targaryen power, the moment when everything Jaehaerys has built seems invincible. He has peace, prosperity, justice, an incredible family, and the military might to crush any threat. He is 50 years old and has ruled for 35 years. This should be the triumphant conclusion of his story. But the gods are not done with him yet. The following year, Princess Alyssa becomes pregnant with her 3rd child. The pregnancy is difficult from the start. She is in constant discomfort, and the Maesters grow increasingly concerned. When labor finally comes, it is long and brutal. She gives birth to a son, another Aegon, named for the conqueror and for the infant brother who died decades ago. But Alyssa does not recover. The bleeding will not stop. The Maesters try everything they know, but medieval medicine has its limits. Bachelon sits by her bedside, holding her hand, watching the woman he loves slip away. She dies 6 months after giving birth, still young, still vibrant, but broken by the very act of creating life. Bachelon the brave, the warrior prince who destroyed a Dornish fleet without flinching, is shattered by the loss of his wife. He will never remarry. He will never love again. There was only one Alyssa, and she is gone. The baby Aegon survives his mother by only a few months. He dies before his first name day, another cradle death, another small coffin carried to the crypts. Baelon loses wife and son within a year. The man who seemed unbreakable breaks. He continues functioning, performing his duties, training his surviving sons Viserys and Daemon, but the light in his eyes is gone. He is still the brave, but now he is also the bereaved, carrying grief that will never fully heal. Jaehaerys and Alysanne watch their son suffer and can do nothing. This is what power cannot fix. They can make laws and build roads and negotiate with kingdoms, but they cannot bring back the dead. They cannot heal a broken heart. They cannot protect their family from the ordinary tragedies that afflict all humanity, and the realization is crushing. In the years that follow, more sorrows accumulate. Princess Visera, born in 71 AC, grows into one of the most beautiful women in the realm. She knows it, uses it, expects it to bring her power and position. When she is betrothed to an elderly northern lord, she is furious. Her beauty wasted on an old man in a cold castle, unacceptable. She tries to seduce Balon, her widowed brother, hoping to break her betrothal and position herself for something better. Balon, still loyal to Alyssa's memory, rejects her coldly. Humiliated and angry, Visera goes drinking with companions. She races through King's Landing on horseback, drunk and reckless, trying to prove something to someone. Her horse throws her. She strikes her head on stone and dies instantly. Another child gone, this time through pride and foolishness. Jaehaerys must bury another daughter, must try to make sense of another senseless death. There is no sense to find. Princess Daela, the timid one, is married to Lord Roderick Arryn of the Vale in her teens. He is older, kind, patient with her fearfulness. She becomes pregnant, and terror consumes her. Labor is difficult. The baby will not come. She dies in childbirth at the Eyrie, leaving behind a daughter named Amma, who will survive and eventually marry into the royal family. But Daela is gone, dead from the very process of creating life, just like Alyssa before her. Alysanne blames herself. She pushed Jaehaerys to marry, insisted she needed to do her duty despite her obvious fear. And now her daughter is dead. She blames Jaehaerys too, for demanding heirs and grandchildren, for prioritizing dynasty over the safety of their delicate daughter. The arguments grow more bitter. The partnership that defined the reign begins to fracture under accumulated grief. Princess Jaehaerys provides a different kind of heartbreak. Wild and beautiful and utterly uncontrollable, she scandalizes the court with affairs and manipulations. When finally confronted, she is unrepentant. She is a dragon. Dragons take what they want. Her father, red with fury, demands obedience. She refuses. He sends her to the Faith to be reformed into a proper princess. She escapes and flees to Westeros, where she becomes a courtesan and eventually a wealthy pleasure house owner. She is alive but lost to them, exiled by choice rather than death. In some ways it is worse. Jaehaerys disowns her, declares her dead to him. Alysanne wants to forgive, to reach out, to bring their daughter home. But Jaehaerys will not bend. The king who showed mercy to enemies cannot show it to his rebellious daughter. It is one of his failures, one of the places where his wisdom deserts him, and the divide between king and queen grows wider. Through all of this, the realm prospers. The small folk do not see the private grief of their monarchs. They see roads and bridges and wells and justice. They see peace lasting decades. They see a golden age, and they are right. Jaehaerys has created something extraordinary, but the man at the center of that creation is slowly breaking. He has given everything to the realm, and it has cost him most of his children, 4 dead in infancy. Daenerys to disease, Alyssa to childbirth, Visera to accident, Daenerys to childbirth, Sarah to exile, Maegor to Pleaf and Citadel respectively. Only Aemon and Baedlon remain of his sons and their families. The perfect family portrait from the 60s AC is shattered. The Golden Age continues, but it is built on a foundation of private sorrow, success as a king, failure as a father, at least by the measure of keeping his children alive and close. And Jaehaerys, now in his 50s, begins to understand the full price of greatness. You can change the world, you can build a kingdom that will last centuries, but you cannot protect the people you love from mortality. That is beyond even the power of dragons. The year 92 AC begins with the realm at peace and the succession apparently secure. Prince Aemon, now 37 years old, is the beloved heir. He is everything a crown prince should be. Brave without being reckless, wise without being indecisive, kind without being weak. He flies Caraxes regularly, maintaining the dragon bond that is part of Targaryen mystique. His marriage to Jocelyn Baratheon is happy. Their daughter Rhaenys is 18, beautiful, intelligent, newly married to Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake, wealthiest man in the realm. She is pregnant with her first child, making Aemon soon to be a grandfather. Everything points toward a smooth succession when Jaehaerys eventually passes. Then comes the news from Tarth. Myrish exiles, former slaves and pirates, have seized the eastern half of the island. They are brutal, efficient, and numerous. Lord Cameron Tarth sends desperate messages begging for help. The situation requires immediate response, both to save Tarth and to demonstrate that the crown protects its vassals. Aemon does not hesitate. As Prince of Dragonstone and heir to the throne, this is exactly the kind of crisis he should handle. He climbs onto Caraxes and flies east. The plan is sound. Meet with Lord Tarth, assess the situation, coordinate a counterattack. Aemon is experienced, careful, not prone to rushing into danger. He lands in the mountains where Lord Tarth has established a command post. They discuss strategy, examining maps, planning their assault on the Myrish positions. It should be routine. It should be safe. The crossbow bolt comes from rocks above the camp. A Myrish assassin, hidden and patient, waiting for the perfect shot. He aims at Lord Tarth, trying to decapitate the resistance. But at the critical moment, Aemon shifts position. The bolt meant for Tarth strikes him instead, punching through his throat. The heir to the Iron Throne collapses, blood pouring from the wound. Men rush to help him, but there is nothing to be done. He drowns in his own blood in minutes, dying in a mountain camp far from home, killed by a random bolt from a nameless assassin. Caraxes screams. The dragon's rage shakes the mountains. He burns everything within reach, turning the entire area into an inferno. Mirish positions are incinerated. Forests catch fire. The retaliation is swift and terrible, but it cannot bring back the dead prince. Aemon is gone. The news reaches King's Landing days later. Jaehaerys is holding court when the messenger arrives. The man hesitates, knowing what his words will do, but there is no gentle way to deliver this news. The Prince of Dragonstone is dead, killed at Tarth. The heir is gone. Jaehaerys, now 58 years old, feels the world tilt. Not Aemon. Anyone but Aemon. The perfect son, the future king, the one who was supposed to continue everything Jaehaerys built. But the messenger is certain. Prince Aemon died from a crossbow bolt to the throat. There is no doubt, no hope, no mistake. Alysanne collapses when she hears. Servants catch her before she hits the floor. She is carried to her chambers sobbing, unable to process this fresh horror. How many children can they lose? How much grief can two people endure? Aemon was supposed to survive them, supposed to rule after Jaehaerys died, supposed to be the continuity that justified everything. Now he is gone at 37, cut down in a random moment of violence that makes no sense. The realm mourns. Aemon was genuinely beloved. Small folk and lords alike saw him as the future, the promise that the Golden Age would continue. His death feels like a theft, a cosmic injustice. The funeral is enormous. Thousands attend. Battleon lights his brother's pyre, weeping openly, having lost his best friend and closest companion. Rhaenys, now heavily pregnant, watches her father burn, knowing her child will never meet its grandfather. But grief must give way to necessity. The succession is now unclear. Aemon's only child is Rhaenys, a woman. By the principle of primogeniture, the throne should pass through the eldest line, meaning Rhaenys is the rightful heir. She is married, pregnant, intelligent, and a dragon rider. She could rule, but she is a woman, and Westeros has never had a ruling queen. The lords might reject her. Civil war could result. The alternative is Baelon, Jaehaerys' second son. He is male, experienced, a proven warrior, and administrator. He has two sons, Viserys and Daemon, ensuring male succession for another generation. By the principle of male preference, he should be heir. But passing over Rhaenys means rejecting the eldest line, dishonoring Aemon's memory, and setting a precedent that women can never inherit regardless of their position. Jaehaerys faces an impossible choice. He loves Rhaenys. She reminds him of Aemon, carries his blood, deserves the throne by right of descent, but he fears what naming a female heir will do to the realm. His own mother could not hold power. Women in Westeros have almost no political authority. Would the lords accept Queen Rhaenys, or would they rebel, tearing the kingdom apart in civil war? Everything he has built could collapse over this question. He makes the decision quickly, perhaps too quickly. Within days of Aemon's death, he names Baelon as Prince of Dragonstone and heir to the throne. Male succession, safety over justice, tradition over right. Rhaenys is passed over, her claim denied. She is gracious in public, accepting the decision with dignity. But everyone knows she has been cheated. The courtier mushroom gives her a title that will follow her forever. The queen who never was. Corlys Velaryon, her husband, is furious. He is the wealthiest man in the realm, a legendary sailor, a power in his own right. His wife had the better claim, and was passed over because of her gender. He withdraws to Driftmark, his resentment simmering. This will not be forgotten. The slight will echo through generations. Bedalon accepts the position reluctantly. He would give it back in a heartbeat to have Aemon alive again. The brothers were inseparable, trained together, fought together, shared everything. Now Bedalon must take his brother's place, wear his title, inherit his future. And he must do it while carrying the grief of losing Alyssa years earlier. He is Prince of Dragonstone, but he is also a man drowning in loss. For 9 years, Baelon serves as heir. He is competent, respected, dutiful. He trains his sons Viserys and Daemon to eventually continue the line. Viserys grows into a solid, dependable young man. Daemon is more volatile, more dangerous, but undeniably talented. The succession seems secure again. In 100 AC, Jaehaerys even names Baelon as Hand of the King, bringing him fully into governance, preparing him for eventual kingship. Everything is arranged, planned, secure. Then in 101 AC, Balon goes hunting. It is supposed to be relaxing, a break from the endless duties of heir and hand. He is only 44 years old, still in his prime. But during the hunt, he complains of pain in his side, sharp, stabbing pain that will not go away. He returns to King's Landing, thinking rest will solve it. Instead, the pain worsens. He takes to his bed in the Tower of the Hand. Maesters examine him, but cannot determine the cause. For 5 days, Baelon suffers. The pain intensifies. His belly swells. He develops fever, and finally his appendix bursts, flooding his body with infection. There is nothing medieval medicine can do for a burst appendix. Baelon the Brave, who destroyed Dornish fleets and never showed fear in battle, dies screaming in agony. His father personally lights the funeral pyre, standing there aged and broken, watching his second son burn. Both his male heirs, both the princes who were supposed to continue his line, are dead before him. Jaehaerys is now 67 years old. He has outlived both his sons. Aemon died at 37. Baelon at 44. Neither lived to be king. And now the succession question he thought resolved 9 years ago returns with even greater urgency. Who inherits the throne when the king finally dies? Rhaenys's claim has not improved with time. She is older now, has children, but she is still a woman. 9 years ago she was passed over for Baelon. Now Baelon is dead. Does the throne go to her, the daughter of the elder son, or does it go to Viserys, Baelon's son continuing the male line? Or perhaps to Laenor, Rhaenys's son, a male descendant of the elder line? The possibilities multiply, each with advocates, each with problems. Jaehaerys cannot decide. He is too old, too tired, too grief-stricken. He has watched his family die piece by piece. 11 of his 13 children are now gone, dead or lost to him. Only Maegor and Saera survive, one a scepter, one exiled and estranged. His sons are dead. His wife is distant, their marriage strained to breaking after decades of accumulated sorrow. He sits on the Iron Throne and feels every one of his 67 years. The small council urges him to choose. Civil war looms if succession is unclear when he dies. Lords are already taking sides, positioning themselves for the coming struggle. But Jaehaerys cannot bear to make another impossible choice. He has been making impossible choices his entire reign, sacrificing personal happiness for the good of the realm. And where has it gotten him? His children are dead. His family is shattered. His marriage is broken. He has given everything and it still is not enough. So he makes a radical decision. He will not choose. Instead, he calls a great council. Every lord in the realm is invited to Harrenhal to debate the succession and vote on the next heir. It is unprecedented, revolutionary, potentially dangerous. But Jaehaerys is done making decisions that will haunt him. Let the realm decide its own fate. Let the lords bear the responsibility of this choice. He has carried too much for too long. The announcement stuns the realm. A king abdicating his responsibility to choose his own heir, allowing lords to vote on royal succession. It violates every principle of monarchy, but it also brilliantly diffuses the crisis. No matter who is chosen, the decision will have the backing of the entire realm. Civil war becomes much less likely when hundreds of lords have voted for the winner. It is wisdom born of exhaustion, a solution found when there seemed to be no solution. As ravens fly across Westeros summoning lords to Harrenhal, Jaehaerys sits in his chambers, finally allowing himself to feel the weight of his years. He is the greatest king the realm has ever known. He has built a golden age from nothing. He has proven that wisdom matters more than dragons, that mercy is strength, that service defines kingship. But he has also lost everything that mattered to him personally. His children are dead. His wife barely speaks to him. He is alone in a way that crowds cannot cure. The boy who survived Maegor's terror has become the old king, revered and isolated. The prince who chose mercy over vengeance has discovered that mercy cannot protect you from grief. The man who gave everything for the realm has nothing left to give. He will live 2 more years after Balon's death, watching the Great Council unfold, seeing Viserys chosen as heir, presiding over a realm at peace. But he is already gone in the ways that matter. The Golden Age continues, but its architect is hollow, counting days until he can finally rest. Harrenhal has always been a place of ghosts. The great castle, largest in all of Westeros, was built by Harren the Black and destroyed by Aegon the Conqueror's dragonfire. On the same day, its 5 massive towers stand broken and melted, monuments to hubris and the power of dragons. Now, in 101 AC, it becomes the site of the most important political gathering in the history of the 7 kingdoms. Lords arrive from every corner of the realm. Great houses send their patriarchs, lesser houses send their heirs, even landed knights with the right to vote make the journey. They come from the frozen north, from the Green Reach, from the Rocky Vale, from wealthy Lannisport and ancient Old Town. Ships and horses and marching feet converge on Harrenhal until the ruined castle is surrounded by an enormous encampment. Estimates suggest over 1,000 lords with voting rights attend, along with their retinues, servants and guards. It is the largest assembly in living memory. The question before them is deceptively simple. Who should inherit the Iron Throne when King Jaehaerys dies? But the answer is anything but simple. Multiple claimants have legitimate arguments, and the choice will set precedents that last for generations. Princess Rhaenys arrives with her husband Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake. She is now 37 years old, experienced, confident, the mother of 2 grown children. Her claim is straightforward. She is the daughter of Prince Aemon, the elder son. By the principle of primogeniture, where inheritance passes through the eldest child and their descendants, the throne should be hers. Her father was the heir. She is his only child. Therefore she inherits his claim. In any matter of property or titles, this logic would be unassailable. Her supporters make this case passionately. They argue that passing over the eldest line sets a dangerous precedent. If proximity to the throne does not matter, if descent can be ignored whenever convenient, then succession becomes arbitrary. Any ambitious prince could press a claim. Any group of lords could decide to change the rules. Stability requires respecting bloodlines, honoring the rightful heir regardless of personal characteristics. And Rhaenys is qualified. She rides Melis, one of the fastest dragons alive. She is intelligent, well-educated, politically astute. She has proven herself capable. Her gender should not disqualify her. Corlys adds that their children strengthen her claim. Their son Landor is a young man, a dragon rider himself. If lords truly cannot stomach a woman on the throne, then vote for Rhaenys with the understanding that Landor will succeed her, restoring male rule within a generation. The bloodline is what matters. Aemon's line, the line of the elder son. Prince Viserys presents a different case. He is 24 years old, the son of Prince Baelon Jaehaerys' second son. His claim rests on male preference succession, the traditional pattern where women can inherit only if there are no male heirs in the line. Baelon was named Prince of Dragonstone after Aemon's death, explicitly chosen over Rhaenys. That choice 9 years ago set a precedent. The realm accepted that male heirs take priority. Now, with Baelon dead, his son Viserys inherits that claim. Viserys' supporters emphasize tradition and stability. Westeros has never had a ruling queen. The closest was Jaehaerys Targaryen, who wielded considerable power but never actually sat the throne. Every kingdom, every great house, every inheritance law in the realm prioritizes male heirs. The North follows male preference. The Westerlands follow it. The Reach, the Stormlands, the Vale, all follow it. Only Dawn, strange and unconquered Dawn, allows women to inherit equally. Should all of Westeros follow Dornish customs? Or should the Iron Throne reflect the values of the 6 kingdoms it actually rules? There is also the practical argument. Many lords simply will not accept a woman's authority. Not because Rhaenys is unqualified, but because generations of tradition have taught them that women do not rule, that they are unsuited for command, that their proper role is supportive rather than sovereign. Right or wrong, this belief is widespread. Naming Rhaenys could trigger immediate rebellions. Lords might refuse to honor their oaths. The realm could descend into civil war before Jaehaerys is even cold. Viserys, by contrast, will be accepted without question. He is male, married, has a daughter with another child on the way. Succession through him is clear, safe, traditional. Some voices propose a compromise. What about Landor, Rhaenys' son? He is male, removing the gender objection. He is descended from Prince Aemon, honoring the elder line. His father is Corlys Velaryon, which would bring the wealthiest family in the realm into the royal house. It seems like a perfect solution, combining legitimacy with practicality. But others object. Landor is only 15 years old, untested, unknown. His father is not royal blood, and accepting him still requires passing over Viserys, who is older, more experienced, and from a line explicitly chosen 9 years ago. Then there is Prince Daemon, Viserys' younger brother. He is 20 years old, dashing, dangerous, everything his steady brother is not. Daemon does not formally press his own claim, but his supporters whisper it anyway. If male primogeniture matters, if being descended from Baelon matters, why not the younger son who is more capable, more charismatic, more the warrior prince that legends are made of? Daemon rides Caraxes now, the dragon that once carried Aemon. He wields Dark Sister with legendary skill. He is everything a Targaryen should be, but his volatility scares people. His ambition is too naked, and supporting him would create chaos, pitting brother against brother in a contest that could tear the realm apart. The debates at Harrenhal last for days. Enormous tents are erected to house the discussions. Lords gather in groups, arguing, making alliances, counting votes. Rhaenys holds court in one area, graciously accepting visitors, making her case with dignity and intelligence. Viserys does the same elsewhere, presenting himself as the safe choice, the traditional choice, the choice that preserves stability. Supporters of both sides grow increasingly passionate. The arguments are not purely legal or political, they become philosophical, moral, revealing deep assumptions about gender and power. Those supporting Rhaenys argue that ability should trump tradition, that justice demands honoring the rightful heir, that the realm loses when it excludes half the population from power. Those supporting Viserys counter that tradition exists for reasons, that stability requires respecting established norms, that radical change should not be imposed by royal fiat. Both sides are sincere. Both believe they are right, and both know that this decision will shape the realm's future for generations. King Jaehaerys attends the council but does not participate in debates. He sits in a place of honor, watching, listening, saying nothing. He has made his position clear. The lords will decide. He will accept whatever they choose. It is an abdication of responsibility, in some ways, but it is also wisdom. Any choice he makes will alienate half the realm. Any precedent he sets will be questioned and contested. Better to let the realm itself speak, to create a consensus that transcends individual authority. After 2 weeks of debate, the vote is finally taken. The method is simple but effective. Each lord with voting rights comes forward and declares his choice. Scribes record every vote, ensuring transparency and preventing fraud. The process takes an entire day, as over 1,000 lords state their preferences, and as the sun sets on Harrenhal, the result is clear and overwhelming. Viserys wins by a massive margin. The exact count varies in different tellings, but most sources agree he receives roughly 20 votes for every one cast for Rhaenys. It is not close. The lords of Westeros have spoken decisively. They choose tradition over blood right, male succession over female, stability over change. Rhaenys is passed over for the second time, her claim rejected by the realm itself. The announcement is met with cheers from Viserys' supporters and silence from Rhaenys'. She takes the news publicly with grace, bowing to the will of the council, congratulating her cousin. But anyone watching her face can see the pain. She was the rightful heir by every measure except gender. And gender was enough to deny her everything. The title Mushroom gave her 9 years ago is now permanent. She will forever be the queen who never was. Corlys is less diplomatic. He withdraws from Harrenhal immediately, not waiting for the formal conclusion of the council. He returns to Driftmark bitter and angry. His wife was cheated, his family's rightful place denied. He will remember this. His children will remember this. The resentment will pass through generations, poisoning relations between Velaryon and Targaryen, creating grudges that will eventually help fuel civil war. Viserys is proclaimed heir to the Iron Throne before the assembled lords. He kneels before his grandfather, and Jaehaerys places a circlet on his head, naming him Prince of Dragonstone. The succession is settled. The crisis is resolved. The realm has chosen, and the choice is final. Civil war is averted. The Great Council has accomplished exactly what Jaehaerys hoped, but the precedent is now set in stone, voted on by over 1,000 lords, unambiguous and binding. Women cannot inherit the Iron Throne if any male heir exists, no matter how distant, no matter how tenuous the connection. Male preference is not just tradition, it is law, confirmed by the greatest gathering in history. This precedent will stand for generations, shaping every succession question that follows. Jaehaerys watches all of this unfold with exhausted relief. He did not have to choose. He did not have to pick between his granddaughter and his grandson, between justice and stability, between what is right and what is safe. The lords made the choice for him. He can live his remaining days without that particular guilt, but he also knows in the quiet of his own thoughts that this decision will haunt the realm. He has seen enough of history to understand that avoiding hard choices does not eliminate them, it merely postpones them. What happens when a king defies this precedent? What happens when someone names a daughter heir, despite the Great Council's ruling? What happens when personal will conflicts with established law? These questions hang in the air, unspoken but present. Jaehaerys has resolved the immediate crisis, but he has also created the conditions for a future one. The contradiction is baked in. A great council can override royal decree, but a king's word is supposed to be law, which takes precedence. The realm does not yet know, but it will find out, in blood and fire, in a civil war that nearly destroys everything Jaehaerys built. For now, though, there is peace. Viserys is the heir. The lords are satisfied. The succession is clear. The realm can rest easy knowing who will rule when the old king finally passes. Jaehaerys returns to King's Landing, his last great crisis resolved, his final duty discharged. He has 2 more years to live, but in many ways his reign is already over. The hard choices have been made. The prices have been paid. All that remains is the waiting. Rhaenys returns to Driftmark with her head high and her heart broken. She will live for decades more, will see her children grow, will witness the realm's stability persist, but she will always know that she was denied what should have been hers. And when her descendants face their own succession crisis, when her granddaughter Rhaenyra is named heir and then challenged, the memory of this moment will matter. The queen who never was will be remembered, and her treatment will justify anger, legitimize rebellion, give cause to those who believe the Great Council was wrong. The decision at Harrenhal solves one problem and creates another. It gives the realm immediate stability and plants seeds of future war. It respects tradition and commits injustice. It is democratic and tyrannical at once. And it shows perhaps more clearly than anything else in Jaehaerys' reign that some questions have no good answers. Sometimes the choice is between bad options, and the best you can do is pick the least destructive path and hope the consequences do not catch up with you. In 101 AC, standing in the ruins of Harrenhal, the lords of Westeros make a choice that seems wise and necessary and right. In 28 years, that same choice will help justify a civil war that kills tens of thousands and nearly ends the Targaryen dynasty. But that is a problem for the future. For now the succession is settled. King Jaehaerys can finally rest. The years after the Great Council should bring Jaehaerys peace. The succession is resolved. His grandson Viserys is the heir, accepted by the realm, prepared for kingship. The immediate crisis has passed. At 67 years old, Jaehaerys should be able to spend his remaining time in quiet reflection, enjoying whatever family he has left, watching his great-grandchildren grow. But peace is not what he gets. Alysanne has been distant for years. The marriage that once defined the reign, the partnership that built a golden age, has slowly fractured under the weight of accumulated grief. They have lost 11 children. 11, some died as infants. Tiny lives snuffed out before they could begin. Some died as adults. Their loss is somehow worse because they were real people with histories and futures. Each death drove a wedge between king and queen as they processed grief differently, blamed different causes, sought different solutions. The breaking point is hard to pinpoint. It was not one argument but hundreds. Not one betrayal but 1,000 small disappointments. Alysanne wanted their daughters to have choices. Jaehaerys prioritized duty. She wanted mercy for Sarah. He demanded justice. She wanted to protect Daenerys from the dangers of childbirth. He insisted she must do her duty and provide heirs. Every disagreement reinforced the growing divide. Every loss made reconciliation harder. Sometime in the 90s AC, Alysanne makes a decision. She leaves King's Landing, not temporarily, not for a progress or a visit. She withdraws to Dragonstone permanently, taking up residence in the ancient fortress where they both were born. She brings her ladies, her household, a small court in exile, and she refuses to return. When Jaehaerys sends messages asking her to come back, she declines. When he suggests visits, she is unavailable. The separation is complete. Jaehaerys, stubborn and proud despite his wisdom, refuses to go to her. He is the king. She is the queen. She left him. If she wants reconciliation, she can make the first move, but she does not make it, and he does not yield. So they live apart, within sight of each other across Blackwater Bay, but separated by more than water. Pride and pain, and years of unresolved hurt keep them apart. For the first time in over 40 years, Jaehaerys rules alone. The partnership that governed the realm is broken. Alysanne's counsel, her wisdom, her different perspective, all of it is gone. The small council still functions. Viserys takes on more responsibilities after the Great Council names him heir. The machinery of government that Jaehaerys built runs smoothly, even without his constant attention. But the king himself is diminished, hollowed out, going through motions that once had meaning. In 100 AC, Gael is born. She is Jaehaerys and Alysanne's 13th and final child, born when Alysanne is 44 years old. The pregnancy is unexpected, dangerous at her age, but the baby survives. Gael is called the Winter Child, born at the end of Alysanne's childbearing years, a last gift from a marriage that has otherwise ended. She is sweet and innocent, and becomes Alysanne's constant companion on Dragonstone. Then comes the tragedy that finally breaks Alysanne completely. Gael, now a young woman, is seduced by a traveling singer who visits Dragonstone. The details are unclear, lost in shame and silence, but the outcome is not. Gael becomes pregnant. The singer disappears, either fleeing or paid to leave. Gael carries the child to term, alone and terrified, and gives birth to a stillborn daughter. The compounded trauma, the shame, the loss, it is too much for her fragile mind. She walks into the sea and drowns herself. Servants find her body washed up on the rocks. Alysanne discovers her daughter's corpse, her last child, her baby, her companion, dead by her own hand. Something inside the good queen dies that day. She withdraws completely, speaking to almost no one, eating little, sleeping poorly. The grief that she has carried for decades, the accumulated weight of losing child after child, finally crushes her. She does not recover. She simply fades, day by day, until in 100 AC she dies on Dragonstone. Not from disease, not from injury. She dies because she has given up, because the pain is too much, because she has nothing left to live for. Silverwing, her dragon, feels the bond break. The dragon roars for 3 days straight, a sound of such profound grief that people on the mainland hear it across the water. Silverwing circles Dragonstone endlessly, refusing food, refusing to land, mourning in the only way a dragon can. Eventually, the roaring stops, but the dragon will never accept another rider. Silverwing and Alysanne were bonded for over 50 years. That kind of connection does not transfer. When the news reaches King's Landing, Jaehaerys collapses. His servants find him on the floor of his chambers, weeping. Alysanne is gone. His wife, his sister, his partner, the other half of his soul, and they never reconciled. He spent the last years of her life separated by pride, refusing to cross the bay, waiting for her to come to him. Now she is dead, and that chance is gone forever. He will live with that regret for the rest of his days. He orders preparations to travel to Dragonstone immediately, but it is too late. By the time he arrives, her body has already been prepared for cremation. He stands before her bier, looking at her still face, and the magnitude of his failure crashes over him. He ruled the 7 kingdoms for over 50 years. He built roads and laws and peace, but he could not cross a bay to see his wife. He could not bend his pride enough to reconcile, and now she is gone. The funeral is enormous. Lords from across the realm attend. The small folk who loved the good queen line the shores of Blackwater Bay in silent tribute. Jaehaerys personally lights the pyre, his hands shaking as he holds the torch. Silverwing flies overhead, circling, crying. The dragonfire consumes Alysanne's body, and her ashes are placed in the royal tombs on Dragonstone. She is home, finally, permanently. But Jaehaerys is not. He must return to King's Landing, to the throne, to the duties that never end. The last 3 years of Jaehaerys' life are a slow fade. He is now 66 years old when Alysanne dies, and he will live to 69. But these are not years of life in any meaningful sense. They are years of existence, of going through motions, of waiting for the end. He sits the throne because someone must. He attends council meetings because they are scheduled. He eats and sleeps and breathes because his body continues functioning, but the spark is gone. Viserys takes over most actual governance. The young prince, now in his mid-20s, handles daily administration, signs decrees, meets with petitioners. He consults his grandfather on important matters, and sometimes Jaehaerys offers wisdom, his mind briefly clearing, his old brilliance shining through. But more often he is silent, distant, lost in memories of better times. The physical decline is visible. Jaehaerys grows thinner, frailer. His hands shake. He walks slowly, leaning on servants. His famous silver-gold hair turns white and thins. The purple eyes that once blazed with intelligence now seem clouded, looking at things no one else can see. The greatest king Westeros has ever known is becoming a ghost while still alive. The mental decline is worse. Jaehaerys begins confusing past and present. He calls Viserys by Aemon's name. He asks for Alysanne, forgetting she is dead, then remembering and sinking into fresh grief. He talks to people who are not there, holding conversations with ghosts. The maesters do what they can, but there is no cure for age, no medicine for a broken heart. At night, servants hear him walking the halls of the Red Keep, talking to himself. He recites names: Aegon, Daenerys, Aemon, Balon, Alyssa, Maegor, Vagon, Daenerys, Saera, Visera, Gaemon, Valyri, Gale, all his children, living and dead, remembered in the darkness. He wanders into the throne room and stares at the Iron Throne, remembering when he first sat it at 14 years old, bleeding from its cuts, vowing to be worthy. 69 years later, he wonders if he succeeded. The realm is at peace, his laws endure, but his family is destroyed, and his heart is broken. Was it worth it? There are moments of clarity, days when the fog lifts, and Jaehaerys is fully present, sharp, the man he used to be. On these days he gives Viserys advice that is pure wisdom. He talks about governance, about mercy, about the importance of listening to counsel while ultimately making your own decisions. He speaks of his regrets, particularly about Alysanne, hoping his grandson will learn from his mistakes. He stresses that family matters, that power without love is empty, that success means nothing if you are alone at the end. But these moments grow rarer. More often, Jaehaerys is simply absent, physically present but mentally elsewhere. He sits in his chambers, looking out the window toward Dragonstone, where Alysanne is buried and Silverwing still mourns. He thinks about their wedding, young and in love, and convinced they could change the world. He thinks about their children, so many children, most of them dead before him. He thinks about the price of greatness and wonders if he paid too much. Vermithor, the Bronze Fury, can sense his rider fading. The great dragon remains in the dragon pit, refusing to fly, barely eating. The bond between dragon and rider is ancient and powerful. When one weakens, the other feels it. Vermithor roars occasionally, a mournful sound that echoes across King's Landing, reminding everyone that the old king still lives but will not live much longer. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren visit. Rhaenys comes, the queen who never was, putting aside bitterness to see her grandfather one last time. Viserys is there daily, dutiful and loving. Daemon visits less frequently, uncomfortable with decay. But when he comes, he sits with the old king and listens to stories of the past. Young Rhaenys, Viserys' daughter, is brought to meet her great-grandfather. She is only a toddler, too young to remember. But Jaehaerys holds her and smiles, seeing the future of the dynasty in her tiny face. The realm goes on. Justice is still dispensed according to the king's law. The roads still connect the kingdoms. The wells still provide water. The peace still holds. Everything Jaehaerys built continues functioning without him, which is perhaps the greatest measure of his success. He did not create a system dependent on one man's genius. He created institutions that transcend individuals. The Golden Age does not end when he fades. It continues because he built it to last. But for Jaehaerys personally, these final years are torture. He has outlived everyone he loved. His parents died when he was young. His brothers were murdered. His children are mostly dead. His wife is gone. Even his closest advisors, men like Septon Barth, have died or retired. He is surrounded by younger people who never knew the world before the Golden Age, who cannot comprehend what was sacrificed to create it. He is a legend, revered and honored, but profoundly alone. On winter nights he sits by the fire and wishes for death. Not from despair exactly, but from exhaustion. He has carried the weight of the crown for 55 years. He has made impossible choices, sacrificed everything that mattered personally, given his entire life to duty, and he is tired. Tired of responsibility, tired of grief, tired of watching everyone he loves disappear while he remains. He is ready to rest, ready to join Alysanne and his children, ready to lay down the burden that has defined his existence. Vermithor's roars grow softer, less frequent. The dragon is old now, ancient by dragon standards. He has carried Jaehaerys for over 60 years. The bond is weakening, not through neglect but through the natural approach of death. Man and dragon are both ready. They have fought together, flown together, lived an entire lifetime together. Soon they will part, and Vermithor will wait decades before accepting another rider, if he ever does. In his lucid moments, Jaehaerys makes peace with his choices. He did what he thought was right. He chose mercy over vengeance, wisdom over force, service over power. He built something that will last centuries. Millions of people live better lives because of his decisions. The realm is united, prosperous, just. That is what kingship means, not personal happiness. Not a peaceful old age surrounded by loved ones, but creating something bigger than yourself, something that endures after you are gone. Yet he also acknowledges his failures. He should have reconciled with Alysanne. He should have been kinder to Saira. He should have protected Alysanne better. He should have found a way to keep his family together while serving the realm. The fact that he could not do both is his great tragedy. Success as a king required failure as a father and husband. That is the price, and he paid it. But the payment never stops hurting. Winter deepens in 103 AC. Snow falls on King's Landing, rare and beautiful. Jaehaerys watches from his window, wrapped in furs, shivering despite the heat from the fireplace. He is 69 years old, the longest-lived Targaryen king in history. He has seen more than any person should see, done more than should be asked of anyone, sacrificed more than seems fair. And now, finally, he is ready to stop. He goes to bed one night, surrounded by servants and maesters who check on him constantly. Viserys visits before retiring, sitting with his grandfather, holding his hand. They do not speak much. There is nothing left to say. Everything important has been said already. Viserys kisses the old king's forehead and leaves, not knowing this is goodbye. Jaehaerys closes his eyes. He thinks of Alysanne, young and beautiful and full of life. He thinks of his children, all of them, even the ones who died as infants. He thinks of dragons flying over the Blackwater, of holding court for thousands of petitioners, of building roads and laws and peace. He thinks of the Iron Throne, cutting him the first time he sat it, reminding him that kings must bleed. He has bled enough. He has given enough. It is time to rest. In the morning, servants find him dead in his sleep. There is no struggle, no pain visible on his face. He simply did not wake up. Jaehaerys Targaryen, the conciliator, the wise, the old king, is gone. The greatest reign in Westerosi history has ended, and the realm, which has known his rule for 55 years, must now learn to exist without him. Vermitha knows first. The great bronze dragon feels the bond break. That connection forged over 60 years suddenly severed from the dragon pit. He releases a roar that shakes the foundations of King's Landing. It is not anger. It is not aggression. It is pure grief. The sound of a creature mourning the other half of its soul. The roar continues for hours, echoing off the walls of the Red Keep, rolling across Blackwater Bay, reaching all the way to Dragonstone, where Silverwing answers with her own cry of sorrow. In the Red Keep, servants discover the king's body. He lies peacefully in his bed, hands folded on his chest, face calm. There is no evidence of suffering. He simply went to sleep and did not wake. The Maesters confirm what everyone already knows. King Jaehaerys I is dead. After 69 years of life and 55 years of rule, the old king has finally laid down his crown. Viserys is summoned immediately. He enters his grandfather's chambers and sees the body, still warm but unmistakably lifeless. The young prince, now king though not yet crowned, sits beside the bed for a long time. He holds the old man's hand and weeps quietly. This is the person who raised him, who taught him how to rule, who showed him what kingship truly means. And now he is gone, and Viserys must somehow fill shoes that seem impossibly large. The bells begin tolling within the hour. One bell, then another, then all of them. Every sept in King's Landing rings out the news. The king is dead. Long live the king. Black banners are raised on the Red Keep, visible from across the city. Ravens fly to every corner of the realm, carrying the message that everyone knew was coming, but hoped would not arrive. Jaehaerys the Conciliator has passed. The reaction is immediate and universal. Lords who never met him send condolences. Knights who served under his peace mourn. Genuinely, small folk who benefited from his laws and roads and justice cry in the streets. This is not ceremonial grief, not the obligatory sadness at a monarch's passing. This is real. People genuinely loved Jaehaerys, not because he was powerful, though he was, not because he had dragons, though he did, but because he made their lives better, because he cared about more than lords and politics, because he proved that kingship could be about service rather than domination. In the markets and taverns, people share stories. The time Jaehaerys held court for a poor widow whose lord was stealing her property. The time he flew to a remote village just to settle a dispute between farmers. The roads that made travel safe, the wells that provided clean water, the laws that gave commoners a voice. These are the things people remember. The small acts of governance that transformed daily life. The Golden Age was not just a phrase, it was real, tangible, something they lived through and benefited from. The great houses begin arriving for the funeral. Starks from Winterfell, Lannisters from Casterly Rock, Tyrells from Highgarden, Arryns from the Vale. Martells even send representatives from Dorne, honoring the king who left them independent but treated them with respect. The funeral becomes the largest gathering since the Great Council 2 years earlier. Lords from every corner of the realm converge on King's Landing to pay their respects. The body lies in state for 3 days. Jaehaerys is dressed in royal regalia, the crown on his head, black fire, the sword of Aegon the Conqueror, laid across his chest. Thousands file past to pay respects. Rich and poor, noble and common, all are allowed to view the king one final time. Some weep openly, others stand in silent respect. All understand that they are witnessing the end of an era. On the 3rd day, the funeral procession begins. The casket is carried through the streets of King's Landing on a cart drawn by white horses. Jaehaerys walks behind it, leading the royal family. Daemon is there, Rhaenys, Corlys, all the remaining Targaryens and their closest relations. Behind them come the lords, hundreds of them, in strict order of precedence. And behind them come the small folk, thousands upon thousands, following the procession to its destination. They proceed to the dragon pit, that enormous structure built to house the growing number of royal dragons. The casket is placed on a pyre constructed in the center of the pit. Wood soaked in oil, arranged to burn hot and fast. Targaryen tradition demands cremation by dragon fire, returning the dead to the flames that define their house. And today, multiple dragons will participate. Vermithor is brought forth first. The bronze fury is old, grief-stricken, barely responsive. His keepers are not certain he will perform the duty, but when he sees the pyre, when he smells the man who rode him for 60 years, something awakens in the ancient dragon. He approaches slowly, head lowered, and releases a gout of flame, not aggressive, almost gentle, a final gift to his rider. Other dragons follow. Vhagar, the ancient beast that carried Visenya, and then Baklon, Melis, Rhaenys' dragon, Caraxes, now ridden by Daemon. One by one they breathe fire on the pyre. The flames grow enormous, a column of heat and light visible from across the city. The casket is consumed, the body within reduced to ash. Jaehaerys Targaryen returns to fire, as all Targaryens eventually must. The ceremony lasts hours. When the flames finally die, servants carefully gather the ashes. They place them in an urn that will be taken to Dragonstone, to the royal crypts where Alysanne already rests. Husband and wife, separated in life's final years, will be together again in death. It is the reunion that never happened while they lived, the reconciliation that pride and pain prevented, but death, at least, grants them this grace. They will lie side by side forever. Viserys is crowned within a week. The transition is smooth, exactly as Jaehaerys planned. There is no dispute about succession, no challenge to his authority. The Great Council settled that question. Viserys is the rightful heir, accepted by all, prepared for the role. The coronation is grand, but not excessive. A new king for a new era, honoring the past while looking to the future. But everyone understands that Viserys is not Jaehaerys. No one could be. The old king was unique, shaped by circumstances that cannot be replicated. He survived his family's destruction, claimed the throne as a fugitive teenager, built peace from chaos through sheer wisdom and determination. Viserys is competent, well-trained, a good man, but he did not forge himself in fire the way his grandfather did. He inherited a golden age rather than creating one. The comparison is inevitable and unfair, but it defines his reign from the beginning. The machinery of government continues without disruption. The small council still meets. The king's law still governs the realm. The roads still carry trade. The wells still provide water. This is perhaps Jaehaerys' greatest achievement. He built systems that do not depend on one brilliant leader. He institutionalized justice, making it part of the structure of government rather than a personal quality of the king. The Golden Age can continue, because it is not about one man. It is about the institutions he created. But the absence is felt. The Red Keep seems emptier without the old king's presence. The throne room where he dispensed wisdom for 55 years feels different with someone else sitting the Iron Throne. The realm has known only Jaehaerys for 2 generations. People born in his reign are now 50 years old. Everyone under 55 has never known another king. The adjustment is profound and unsettling. Stories begin circulating immediately. Tales of Jaehaerys' wisdom, his mercy, his dedication to justice. Some are true, some are embellished. Some are invented whole cloth, but all contribute to the legend. Within weeks, he is not just a dead king but a symbol, an ideal, the standard against which all future rulers will be measured. As wise as King Jaehaerys becomes a common saying, the highest praise anyone can offer. The economic impact is minor, which is itself significant. Often, a king's death disrupts trade, creates uncertainty, causes nobles to jockey for position. But Jaehaerys' succession planning was so thorough that nothing changes. Markets remain stable. Merchants continue trading. The treasury remains full. This stability is the final proof of good governance. A realm that can survive its greatest king's death without chaos is a realm built to last. Rhaenys attends the funeral and coronation, then returns to Driftmark. She has made her peace with being passed over, with being the queen who never was. She raised her children, supported her husband, lived a good life despite the disappointment, but she will never forget that she was the rightful heir, that gender alone denied her the throne, and when her granddaughter Rhaenyra faces similar challenges decades later, the memory of Rhaenys' treatment will matter. Some wounds take generations to fully manifest. Vermithor withdraws completely after the funeral. The Bronze Fury will not accept another rider for 26 years until Hugh Hammer claims him during the Dance of Dragons. The dragon mourns in his own way, refusing food for weeks, barely moving. Eventually, he survives because dragons are resilient. But the bond with Jaehaerys is irreplaceable. Silverwing remains riderless for similar reasons, both dragons living monuments to the king and queen they carried. In the weeks after the funeral, Maesters begin compiling official histories. They interview people who knew Jaehaerys, who served under him, who benefited from his rule. They record his laws, his decisions, his reforms. They document the transformation of the realm, from Maegor's terrified subjects to Jaehaerys' prosperous citizens. The histories will be biased, of course, painting him in the best possible light. But the core truth needs no embellishment. He was the greatest king Westeros ever had. The facts speak for themselves. Songs appear even faster than histories. The dads compose ballads about the conciliator and the good queen, about young love surviving tyranny, about building peace through wisdom. The most popular song tells the story of Jaehaerys and Alysanne's secret marriage, two young people choosing love over politics. It becomes a staple at weddings, a romantic ideal that persists for generations. The real complexity of their later estrangement is forgotten or ignored. People prefer the romance to the tragedy. Statues are commissioned. Every major city eventually raises a monument to Jaehaerys in King's Landing. A statue stands near the rebuilt sept, showing him holding the scales of justice rather than a sword. In Old Town, the statue depicts him with an open book, symbolizing his legal reforms. These images shape how future generations remember him, not as a warrior king, not as a dragon rider who burned his enemies, but as a wise ruler who built rather than destroyed. Children born after his death are named Jaehaerys and Alysanne in unprecedented numbers. Not just noble children, though many lords choose these names, but common children too. Farmers and craftsmen and merchants name their sons and daughters after the king and queen who made their lives better. The names become popular, then common, spreading through all levels of society. It is a kind of immortality that military conquest could never achieve. The realm mourns, but it does not collapse. Trade continues. Justice is dispensed. Roads are maintained. The peace holds. This is Jaehaerys' final gift. He built a kingdom that can survive his absence, that does not need his personal genius to function. The institutions are strong enough, the precedents clear enough, the habits of good governance ingrained enough. The Golden Age may eventually end, but not immediately, not catastrophically. It fades gradually as later kings make worse choices, as accumulated problems go unresolved, as the wisdom of Jaehaerys is forgotten. But for now, For the immediate years after his death, the realm he built endures, and that endurance, more than any monument or song, proves he was the greatest king who ever lived. He did not just rule well, he built something that outlasted him. That is the true measure of greatness. 200 years after his death, lords still invoke his name. During Robert's rebellion, when the mad King Aerys burns men alive and the realm tears itself apart, people remember Jaehaerys and whisper that the dynasty lost its way. During the War of the Five Kings, when Westeros bleeds from a dozen wounds, maesters in the Citadel discuss how different things would be if they had another conciliator. His name becomes shorthand for good governance, for wisdom over force, for everything a king should be but so rarely is. The legal code he created with Septon Bath remains the foundation of Westerosi justice for centuries. The king's law is copied, studied, expanded, but never replaced. Its core principles, that justice should be fair and accessible to all, that even lords must answer for their crimes, that trials should follow established procedures, these ideas persist long after the Targaryens' fall. Robert Baratheon sits the Iron Throne 280 years after Jaehaerys, but criminals are still tried under laws that Jaehaerys wrote. The roads he built carry armies during the Dance of Dragons, carry refugees during the Blackfire rebellions, carry supplies during the long winters that periodically grip the realm. The King's Road connects north and south for 300 years, making the Seven Kingdoms truly one realm rather than 7 separate territories. Trade, travel, communication, military response, all of it flows along routes that Jaehaerys planned. You cannot travel Westeros without using his legacy. The precedent of the Great Council becomes both blessing and curse. When succession is disputed, lords remember Harrenhal and call for another council. But the precedent also haunts the realm. The decision that women cannot inherit when men exist, voted on by 1,000 lords, becomes ironclad law. When Viserys names his daughter Rhaenyra as heir despite this precedent, half the realm refuses to accept it. The Dance of Dragons, the civil war that nearly destroys House Targaryen, grows directly from seeds planted at Harrenhal. Jaehaerys' solution to one crisis creates another, proving that even the wisest choices have unforeseen consequences. The irony is brutal and obvious. Jaehaerys created 55 years of peace, but the Great Council's precedent helps justify a civil war that kills tens of thousands, destroys most of the dragons, and leaves the dynasty permanently weakened. His grandson Viserys, trying to be wise like Jaehaerys, names his daughter heir, but in doing so, he defies the precedent Jaehaerys created, which should the realm follow. The king's word or the council's vote, both seem legitimate, both have backing in law and tradition, and so the realm splits, brother fights sister, dragon battles dragon, and the golden age ends in fire and blood. Yet even this disaster does not erase Jaehaerys' greatness. The dance happens generations after his death. The choices were made by others. He cannot be blamed for every consequence of every decision, or no king could ever act. What matters is that during his lifetime, he achieved something extraordinary. He took a realm torn by war, terrorized by a tyrant, divided by religious conflict, and transformed it into the most prosperous kingdom in its history. For 55 years, people lived in peace. That is no small thing. The personal cost remains staggering. 11 children dead. His marriage ended in estrangement. His final years spent lonely and grief-stricken. The price of being the greatest king was being a failed father and husband. He gave everything to the realm, and the realm took everything from him. Future generations remember the peace and prosperity. They do not remember the nights he spent alone, mourning children whose names they never learned, missing a wife who would not speak to him. This is perhaps the deepest truth of Jaehaerys' reign. Greatness requires sacrifice, and the sacrifice is never proportional to the achievement. He did not sacrifice a little to gain a lot. He sacrificed everything to gain something that would outlast him. Most people are not willing to make that trade. They want success without cost, achievement without suffering. Jaehaerys shows that this is impossible. The crown demands everything, and if you want to wear it well, you must be willing to pay. His relationship with Alysanne embodies this tragedy. They started as young lovers who chose each other over politics. They built a partnership that governed the realm and changed history. They were genuinely happy once truly in love, the kind of marriage that people write songs about. But grief and loss and different ways of coping drove them apart. By the end, they could not even speak to each other. The great love story ended in silence and regret. Should he have chosen differently? Should he have put family over realm? These questions have no answers. If he had focused on keeping his children safe and his wife happy, would the realm have suffered? Would the Golden Age have happened? Would millions of people have lived worse lives? Probably. The peace required his constant attention. The reforms required his focus. The justice required his dedication. He could not do that work and also be the father and husband his family needed. So he chose the realm, and his family paid the price. In the great Maester's histories, this choice is framed as noble. The king who sacrificed personal happiness for the good of his people. The ruler who understood that duty comes first. And there is truth to this framing. Jaehaerys did his duty. He served his realm. He gave everything to make life better for millions. But the histories are written by people who never held their dead children, who never watched their marriage crumble, who never spent their final years alone and broken. The cost is sanitized, made abstract, turned into a lesson rather than a lived experience of unbearable pain. Yet, despite all this, Jaehaerys succeeded in ways that matter. The small folk genuinely loved him, not because they were forced to, not because propaganda told them to, but because their lives actually improved under his rule. They had access to justice. They could travel safely. They could drink clean water. They could petition the king and be heard. These are not grand achievements in the way that conquest is grand, but they changed millions of lives in concrete, measurable ways. The lords respected him, even when they disagreed. He could have ruled through fear, like Maegor, using dragons to enforce obedience. Instead, he ruled through wisdom, convincing rather than compelling, building consensus rather than demanding submission. The lords who gathered at Harrenhal to vote on succession did so because Jaehaerys asked them to, because they trusted him, because his judgment had proven sound for over 50 years. That trust was earned, not inherited or extracted by force. The Maesters revere him still. In the Citadel, where knowledge is valued above all, Jaehaerys is remembered as the king who partnered with scholars, who codified laws, who approached problems systematically rather than emotionally. Septon Bath's appointment as Hand was radical because it elevated merit over birth, learning over lineage. That precedent makes the Citadel stronger, gives Maesters hope that competence can triumph over aristocracy. The Faith benefited from his wisdom. He could have crushed the Faith Militant with dragons, as Maegor tried to do. Instead, he negotiated, compromised, found a solution that let both crown and faith maintain dignity. The doctrine of exceptionalism is theologically questionable, but it ended a religious war and created lasting peace between throne and altar. Sometimes wisdom is not about being right. It is about finding solutions that work. The list of what Jaehaerys built is long and impressive. Roads, bridges, wells, laws, courts, precedents, institutions, peace. But more important than any specific achievement is the example he set. He proved that kingship can be about service rather than domination, that wisdom matters more than strength, that mercy is not weakness, that building is harder than destroying, but infinitely more valuable. These lessons could have died with him, but they did not. They persisted through generations of lesser kings because they were proven to work. When Aegon Vive tries to reform the realm for the benefit of small folk, he looks to Jaehaerys as his model. When Daeron II brings Dawn into the realm peacefully, he remembers how Jaehaerys ended the Faith Militant rebellion through negotiation. When good kings throughout Targaryen history try to rule well, they ask themselves what Jaehaerys would do. The example matters as much as the achievements. But what defines his true greatness is that he understood the limits of power. He had dragons, he had armies, he had absolute authority. He could have been a tyrant, and no one could have stopped him. Instead, he chose to be a servant. He used his power to lift others rather than crush them. He understood that the throne is not a privilege. It is a burden, a responsibility, a commitment to sacrifice yourself for those who cannot protect themselves. This understanding came from his childhood. He watched Maegor abuse power and saw how it destroyed both the tyrant and his realm. He experienced powerlessness as a fugitive and learned what it feels like to be vulnerable. He lost his family to violence and cruelty, and understood that these are not abstract concepts. They are real suffering inflicted on real people. His wisdom was not theoretical. It was earned through pain, forged in trauma, refined by loss. In the end, Jaehaerys Targaryen was the greatest king Westeros ever had because he understood what kingship truly means. Not the power to command, not the glory of being obeyed, but the responsibility to serve, the courage to choose mercy over vengeance, the wisdom to build rather than destroy, and the strength to sacrifice everything personal for something larger than yourself. He paid a terrible price for this greatness. He lost his children, his wife, his happiness, his peace of mind. But millions of people lived better lives because of what he built. The Golden Age was real. The peace was genuine. The justice was accessible. Was it worth it? That question has no objective answer. For the people who benefited, who lived in peace and prosperity, the answer is yes. For his children who died, for Alysanne who died estranged, for Jaehaerys himself dying lonely and broken, the answer is less clear. But he made his choice. He chose the realm over everything else, and he lived with the consequences until the day he died. 3 centuries later, when the Targaryen dynasty has fallen and new kings sit the Iron Throne, maesters still study his reign. They analyze his decisions, debate his choices, try to understand how one man achieved so much, and the conclusion is always the same. He was not perfect. He made mistakes. He caused pain. But he was the closest thing to a perfect king that Westeros ever had, and the realm still stands, in large part because of the foundation he built. On a stone in the crypts of Dragonstone, 2 names are carved side by side: Jaehaerys and Alysanne, the conciliator and the good queen, husband and wife, king and queen, partners who built a golden age and paid for it with everything they had. Their ashes rest together in darkness, reunited at last, beyond pain and grief and impossible choices, and above them, the realm they created continues, carrying their legacy forward into an uncertain future. The greatest king, the loneliest man, the eternal legacy. This is the story of Jaehaerys Targaryen, who proved that one person can change the world and showed us exactly what it costs to do so.